Open the floodgates. Yep. A lot of people in here fast. It's a hot topic. Welcome, everybody. Welcome on in.
Yeah, I think, Jacob, this is one of the highest registrations that we've had in the 2 years that we've been running these. So yeah, definitely a ton of interest around AI,
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Already got almost half.
I know I'm ready to take some notes.
That is for sure.
It seems like it's come on really quickly too. A year ago, we weren't really talking a lot about AI.
Yeah, it's interesting. It came out maybe in November, December, and then, within months, everybody wants to rush to keep up with it or compete with it. So it's kind of exploded within the past 6 months.
Curiosity.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think I mentioned this on one of our prior calls, but I was listening to a radio program. I don't even remember which one, but it was a really thought-provoking question, which I'll share with folks. And I certainly don't have the answer, but the question was, do you think AI is more akin to the invention of the printing press or the atomic bomb? Mm-hmm. And I think everybody's kind of wrestling with that. What is going to become of AI?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Consequences will we see?
There's definitely people on both sides of that argument for sure.
Yes.
That is an interesting one. Well, I think we can get it started here. 20 people, and I'm sure more will trickle in as we go. So let's see. All right. So welcome, everybody. And I'm sure you know the title of today's webinar. It is ChatGPT, Artificial Intelligence. What is it and how to get started? We are excited to get started here today. I am Jacob Heath. I'm an account manager here at CompuWorks. And before we get into it, I just want to mention some of the other ones coming up, another ChatGPT in our future as well. The first one coming up next month is productivity tips for a hybrid workforce. Another great topic that's still in the mix here. And then ChatGPT as a business tool. So after you get started here today, you're going to want to sign up for that one as well to kind of take it to the next level and incorporate it in your everyday workplace here. So just a quick Zoom etiquette. Not that most people need it at this point, but for anyone who has a question today, just use our Q&A button at the bottom. It's right next to the chat button. We'll try to get everybody's questions answered during the webinar, but for any questions that we don't get to, we've made some time at the end of the webinar to get to those as well. Lastly, we'll follow up with a survey to get your feedback on today's webinar and webinars you'd like to see in the future topics there that you might be interested in. That usually comes about 24 hours after today's session. So be on the lookout for one of those surveys in your inbox. And before the presentation begins, I'd just like to introduce you to CompuWorks founding partner, Alan Bauman. Hey, Alan.
Thanks, Jacob. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say here. I really want to kind of dive right into this because I'm super interested in the topic. But we're obviously taking a little bit of a break from 365 content that we've been running over the summer here, and those registrations are live right now. So if you wanted to register for any of those 2 sessions that Jacob mentioned, you can certainly do that. So for those of you who don't know Jolynn, and there's probably nobody left that doesn't know Jolynn unless this is your first webinar with us. She is our instructor that we have on here most often. Pretty much most months, Jolynn is running the show here, and she does a terrific job. It seems like she has an endless depth of knowledge in almost anything. I think maybe Jolynn might be the human ChatGPT, as far as I can tell. But we're really happy to have you here again, Jolynn. And yeah, I'll hand it over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, Alan and Jacob. Super excited about this topic as well. As a matter of fact, I just got the shivers. Just kind of thinking about where we are, what to expect in the future. It's unbelievable what this program can do. But what I want to kind of go through first to get us started here is a little bit of background on exactly what is it, how does it work, and starting with, getting used to the terminology. because there's a lot of new terminology that's coming out with all of this AI, this intelligent information that we have available to us these days. And of course, it's being tweaked as we speak. So keep in mind what you see today is not going to stay exactly the way that it is. Everything, of course, is evolving. I'll get to a little bit of that on version wise as we kind of go through things. But basically, what exactly is ChatGPT? It's the GPT part of this, to kind of break it down, is we can chat with kind of like a transformer. If you watch the Transformer movies at all, how it transforms from a vehicle or whatever into this, intelligent creature, that's kind of what this program does. It transforms itself based on whatever it is that we are asking or wanting to get out of this program. So it does this generative pre-trained transformer is what the GPT part of this actually stands for. Now we'll get into a little bit more detail, of course, as to exactly how does it do all of this information that it does. But one of the things that we want to stop and think about is this is an application, and it is an application on its own, but it is being incorporated into other things. So towards our, kind of middle to the end of our session here today, I'll talk a little bit more about how it's being integrated into other applications. But the big thing is, how does it actually work? So before we even open it, let's actually talk about how does this program actually work? So the background of this, and I chuckle every time I think about this, is because this is unbelievable information. It's unbelievable what this application can do. So ChatGPT is an AI model that generates human-like responses. So whatever it is that we're asking it, it's nothing like any of the competitive products out there. Google has one, and there's a few others out there. ChatGPT is not like all of those because of the fact that it's got the human side behind it. So it was actually people training it, not just machines with words, although there are machines with words that kind of piece the words together, but it's the human side of the answers that we get that makes ChatGPT so unique. It is unbelievable what you'll see once we dive in and we start thinking about how it generates the information. It's fantastic. So it uses what is referred to as a large language model, this LLM. So once again, all these acronyms that are out these days. So basically what that means is it has this collection of all these words and the words that go together. And when it responds, it puts it back together as like if we were to say it physically ourselves. It's not like a generated by a robot saying the words. It's actually coming back to us just like you were having a conversation with somebody, which is where that chat piece comes in. So when we talk about the name of it, the chat part is the human side of it. But we do need to keep in mind that the data was officially trained based on last year, I should say 2 years ago information. So 2021 is where it stops. So if you try and ask it information that is today's news, it's not going to know today's news. But I haven't found that I've needed to worry about that. I don't need to ask it things about what happened yesterday, because, and you're going to see that as you start using this application, it's unbelievable. You don't need to have the historical that hasn't even come into play for me yet. And I've been using it for quite a few months, and I use it every day. I was telling Jacob before we got started here, it is something that I'm actually using every single day, multiple times. It's actually a website that I open at the beginning of the day, and I don't close it because I'm always jumping back into it. So where are we at version wise with this program? Well, it depends. And what it depends on is, are you using the free version or are you using a paid for version? So this current natural language chatbot that we have called ChatGPT, its current version is 3.5 if you're using the free version. There's a 3.5 plus and a 4.0 as well. So we'll talk more about the pricing and how all that all works together. But it's started out, of course, at like a 0 model. You know how everything has a version to it? We have versions of our documents. There's versions to ChatGPT as well. So the version that I'm using right now is based on May of 2023, because just like anything, when it's first released, whether it's Windows or it's a Microsoft app, there's always a couple weeks or a couple months later, you're going to get an update, because they test and they test and they test, but you can't test every scenario. So they're constantly making improvements and changes to the application. So the way that I want to kind of go back and talk more about how we're going to use it. So we're going to talk about some different methods of what kind of questions to actually give it. So we actually give it a message, by typing in whatever it is we want it to do. It parses out that question, taking this large language model, this large language of data. It's taking all that data and parsing it into whatever question we asked it and putting it into this natural language to convert it back out to whatever we are getting for a response. If we reword it a little bit, we can end up with a totally different response. And we're going to see an example of that here today. So we could use this for so many different things. I use it for everyday things. I even asked it one time how to fold an 8.5 by 11-inch piece of paper into a square. And it gave me the answer, and I tried it and it works. So I had my grandson wanting to know some different things as well. And so last time I was visiting with him in Minneapolis a couple of weeks ago, we just sat and kept asking it different questions. And he was so intrigued. I can see this being used by all ages. So not just us adults, it's going to be used for a lot of different things. So as you can see, this is just a very, very, very short list. I've been using it for translating languages. I've had it do my husband's, help him update his resume. I like the smart assistants for our daily life. There's so many different things. This is just a very small list. You could have 500 pages of one-liners of different things that you could do with this application. So how do we get it? That's kind of the big thing. Where do we go to get ChatGPT? You're going to go to the web address called chat.openai.com. If you have not already signed up, it is a free sign up. They will be asking you some personal information, not too personal, but of course you have to set up a username, a password. You're going to need to give them your name, those kind of things. When you put in your email address, it will walk you through a wizard to get it set up. Once you continue with your password, you're ready to go. So this is the free version that you are setting up. There's a free version. But there are some difficulties in using the free version. So once you get started, I do encourage you to start with the free version, because they have, of course, made changes to the free version. But what you're going to run into sometimes is lag on its responses. And what I was running into was I couldn't even get in. It was too busy. So there was only enough bandwidth, so when you think of a 10 million mile stretch of road, there's so many people trying to get into this program at one time, it kind of lags. So you can't always get in. So you might have to try again in 5 minutes or a half an hour to see if you can get in. So that's what you're going to run into with the free plan. So as you can see, available when demand is low, standard response speed, regular model updates. So you will still get access to updates. I am currently using the Plus version. I felt it was well worth $20 a month. I would have paid a lot more than that. But as of today, this could of course change at any time. But the free version can give you lags. The paid for version is available as a faster response time, and I have never not been able to get in. So I have been able to get in every single time. So I've been able to open the app. We get priority access to new features as well. So I've set up mine for auto billing, and that's the way that it works as of today. Like I said, though, we don't know what's going to happen in a month from now. So the two versions that are available is the 3.5, but GPT-4 is now available. Generative pre-trained transformer number 4 is basically what it is. I want to have a little robot myself and just kind of have a little transformer sitting at my desk and put the name on there. It's just one of those things that I always think of. So what this new version gives us, as you can see from my slide, 40% more likely to produce factual responses, and we can do things with pictures as well. So it is a updated version, but we're still basing the information back from 2021. They've just made some enhancements. As soon as they were released 3.5, they were already working on 4. So pretty soon it's going to be 4.5, then we're going to get 5. So expect that number to keep changing as we go. So when they first released, it was version 3, and we're talking last November. So not very many months has it even been available. But as you can see from this slide that, there were a billion people before, now there's trillions of people. It's unbelievable how many people are actually using this application. The data that we are actually using, the information that is being taught or fed into the system is growing with leaps and bounds. So the way that it generates the answers will, of course, be changing as we go. But ChatGPT cannot do everything. So it is not an application that you're going to go to and ask it what its political response would be to something. It doesn't do anything politically related, and it's not always going to be accurate. So you got to take that into consideration. There's been a lot of publicity about ChatGPT lately, and some of it has been a little negative, but I don't even want you to think about that, because the positives about this outweigh any negativity. People are just using it incorrectly, I think, is all that's really happening. They're trying to get it to do things that it doesn't do, and they're trying to use it to replace them doing the work. You still have to put work, because you are responsible for the information that you take from the results of ChatGPT. So if you're going to use it for a school paper, don't take it word for word. You need to, it's going to help you maybe, but you can't take it word for word, because people are already caught on to that they're going to be checking your paper to see if it matches ChatGPT. So don't use it word for word. You want to put it into your own words. It is a wonderful tool that we can be using. And don't be scared that it's going to be replacing humans. It is not going to be replacing humans. It is going to help us, not take away our jobs. It is going to help us to do our work smarter and more efficiently. So it's not a replacement for people. So my suggestion to organizations, and we'll get more into this in the business tool side of this, but is if you're going to release this to your company, release it to a small group first. Figure out how you're going to use it. Have a policy and set up some procedures, some guidelines for your organization. But on a personal level, sky's the limit. This is how you want to play with it. You want to go in and take whatever questions it is that you have and ask the program and see what the response is. But if you're going to use it for business purposes, for, a school paper, that kind of thing, you might want to tweak it a little bit. There is, of course, a thesaurus built into Microsoft Word. Take advantage of, putting it into your own words, not ChatGPT's words. Put it into your own words. Okay. let's dive into how this program works. So when it comes to using this ChatGPT, and you get your account set up. So I was kind of waiting to see if anybody was if you needed to set up an account after I gave you the web address, and wanted you to have a minute here to get into it. If you got your account set up, or if you haven't, and you want to just kind of see it first, that's okay too. But I do encourage you to check it out. So if you haven't already set up an account, get it set up. So let me explain what you're seeing on the user interface. On the left-hand side is going to be the history of your chats, the previous questions that you have asked it. I'll go through some of mine that I have over on the left-hand side and talk about how to manage all of that, because you don't have to keep it, but we'll talk about how do you manage that. But on the right-hand side is where it chats with you. So this is where you're going to go, and it's very similar to Microsoft Teams chat. You go to the bottom of the window, type in whatever it is you want to ask, press enter, and it's automatically going to generate it at the top part of the window, just like your Teams chat does. So it works the same way. What you're not going to see is you don't get a toolbar. There's no type of a menu, no ribbon that you're going to be using to change formatting or anything like that. We don't do that. But we'll talk about what are you going to do with the information once you generate it. But you're going to see at the top of my window, I have ChatGPT 3.5, and then I have my ChatGPT 4. I have not updated to the 4 yet, because every time I do this session, most people only have the 3.5 because it's the free version. Although I do have the plus version to make sure I can stay connected. I haven't updated to 4.0 yet. I want to wait until more people are using it, and then I'll do that as well. But in the middle of the window, you can see that I'm in the ChatGPT Plus. So how can you ask it questions? Just go to the bottom in that send a message, type in whatever it is that you want to get an answer for, and then press your enter key. It's that easy. So it's going to keep whatever conversation it is that you type in and the results that it gives you, it's going to keep them as history on the left-hand side. So like if I go into, I have fold paper into a box. I had asked it how to fold an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper into a box. And here's the instructions that it gave me. And I followed the instructions and they worked perfectly. So I kept that as an example of something that, it's crazy what you can be asking it. I'm asking it more than going to the internet and looking something up. So when you look at the results, so at the top is going to be what you typed in, and then you're going to see the ChatGPT icon in its response. So you can always see what you typed in versus what they responded back. So it separates that conversation. On the right-hand side of what they responded, you're going to actually see 3 little icons. You're going to have this paste looking, it's a clipboard. You're going to have your thumbs up and your thumbs down. They are encouraging you to give them feedback. I get notifications all the time saying, would you like to give us feedback? So give them a thumbs up if the answer was good. If the answer wasn't good, it wasn't accurate, make sure you give them a thumbs down so they know, so that they can track the conversations that have the good and the bad, and they're starting to tweak the answers and things. But when you look at the bottom of the screen, I can continue this conversation, and I could go back and continue talking about taking this piece of paper and folding it into a bird or whatever. So how to fold an 8.5 by 11 inch paper into a bird. So I'm continuing that same conversation. So it's going to keep that all in one history chat together. Okay. So now I got to try this one. I'll try it when we get done with our session here. I just love this kind of stuff. I can ask it anything. So you can see it tells me, origami flapping bird is what it's going to show me how to create from this. I used to buy those in a book and then tear the page out and fold them. I was really big into paper. So anyway, it's giving me all my instructions on how to do that. So literally you could be asking it anything. Now, I also did a contract for a beach equipment rental company. So you could see I can have just about any type of a question asked to ChatGPT. I even asked it for some Excel tips and tricks. So I wanted to see how well it matched up with some of the things that I do. So you can ask it anything that you really want to be asking it. So let's say that, and this is something that I had when I was visiting with my daughter and stuff. She's got a neighbor that she was having some issues, and she wanted to know what is a polite way to confront a nosy neighbor. So this was one that we actually put in a couple of weeks ago. So, I mean, seriously, it's unbelievable what you can be asking it. So when it comes to, you know, what it is that you do at home, what it is that you do at work, it can be asked just about anything. But what it is doing, because I didn't start a new conversation, it's adding it to the previous chat that I was in. So I just went to the bottom and asked it another question. And just so you know, it's storing it with the chat that I was previously in. If I want to start a brand new chat, I can go to the top left and click new chat. When I click on new chat, I'm back to having a blank window. Of course, if you want to go back to a previous, you go back to your left-hand side. So let's say that we want to conduct a neighborhood survey. So how to create a survey on playground equipment. We can ask it pretty much anything. And what I really like about this is I can actually share the responses. So look at all of that. Distribute the survey, take action on the survey, remember to ensure privacy. So it's giving me all kinds of details. Am I going to take this word for word? Absolutely not. But what I'm going to do is, let's say that we have a neighborhood community, I'm in an HOA and we're going to do a meeting together. I'm going to actually share this with everybody. Now, how can I share it? Well, one way I could actually share any response that I get is technically I could select it. I could just simply click and drag and select it and then copy it. You know, Control C, do a right click, you know, copy. I could then paste it into a Word document, paste it into an email, whatever it is that you want. But there's an update that we received recently that we don't have to do that anymore. I personally don't do it as much. Sometimes I still want it to be part of a Word document, so I'll still copy and paste it, and then I'll start tweaking it. But if I just wanted to share this prior to the meeting with my neighborhood, I could go back to the left-hand side where it now says playground equipment as the name of this history of this chat, where I could continue down at the bottom and I could say, let me give you a couple of examples here. What is safe playground equipment? So we could be asking it to continue a conversation based on playground equipment. So we could be asking it several other things, okay? It's storing it all in that one chat history. When you look at your list of your history on the left-hand side, you're going to see where it shows you the name. And then when you're going to each of these, like I'm on my playground equipment, I've got a pencil, I've got this up arrow, and I've got a delete button. The pencil, if you click on it, would allow you to change the title that you see in the left-hand side. So if I wanted to say survey equipment, I could change the name by just physically typing in whatever I want to name it. Or if I wanted to, and by the way, if I change the name, it's going to give you a check mark to complete it to say, yes, I want you to change it to this. Or you could do the delete to delete it out. The same with deleting something. If I go to delete something, like fold paper into a box, if I want to delete that, I go to the delete, and then I have to confirm that I want to delete it by doing the X. That would confirm me deleting it. Now, I don't go back and delete things right away. Sometimes I give it a couple of days just in case I want to go back to it. But periodically, I do come in here and clean things up. If I know I never need to see it, or I could always re-ask it, I don't keep it. But what we have that is new is, I'm going to go back to this playground equipment. Something that's not, just came out recently is this up arrow. This up arrow allows you to share a link to this conversation, this chat. So I'm going to click on that share link to chat. So you could see that it says messages you send after creating the link won't be shared. Anyone with the URL will be able to view the shared chat. So whoever they share it with, they'll be able to view it as well. So it could be shared by multiple people. So down at the bottom, I can click copy link and then put it in an email or wherever I want to share it with people from. I've actually put it in Yammer. I'm not sure if you're using the Microsoft tool called Yammer, but I've put a couple of mine in Yammer. I've also put some in SharePoint. We were doing we had a project plan going on and I wanted to share it. I also put it in OneNote. So just to tell you where I've been kind of sharing some of my links to. But a lot of times, like in this situation, it being neighborhood related, if I had the email addresses of everybody, I would email it to them so that prior to the meeting, they can review this. And then I'm going to copy this. I'm going to select this and I'm going to put it into a Word document so that as a group, when we get together, we're going to be able to tweak it. So I'll put it up on the screen, or if we're doing virtual, I'll share my screen so they can see it. And then we can work together to get this document created to where it's going to be from us. It's our information. But this is my great starting point. But I don't leave it word for word. A lot of times I'm going back and I'm changing, because this isn't what I need to a T, but it at least gets us started in the right track. Okay. So accessing GPT is going to be going to an internet browser, going to your chat.openai.com, get your account set up. If you feel that you're not getting connected quick enough, you get to the point where you can't get in sometimes, then you might want to consider upgrading to the monthly plan. Okay. I do encourage you to do the 4.0. I know that the 4.5 is supposed to be released shortly, but they're always doing updates. Like this share capability has recently been added, but they're also making other background changes as well as we do things. But keep in mind, it can't always do everything. Can't always do everything. So let me start a new chat. And I want to kind of show you some kind of different ways. Sometimes you have to paraphrase to get a different type of response. So I'm going to go back and say I want to do a new chat. When I come into doing this new chat, let me go ahead and ask it a question. And let me actually let me do airplanes. This morning I was talking about flying again. I was going to give it a try again. And so I don't fly right now, just so you know. But what I wanted to ask it was how to explain how an airplane flies. Oops. I have to type it correctly. I mean, it's pretty good on understanding what I'm trying to say. How to explain I should say, how to explain to an adult how an airplane works. Okay, how to explain to an adult how an airplane works. Okay. So lift, the airplane generates lift, it's got thrust, it has drag, blah, blah, blah. So it's important to note that the explanation is a simplification. It's not the complex description. I could ask it for a more complex, a more detailed description. So maybe I want to say, what is a detailed description of how an airplane works. So you can get different responses based on how you ask the question. So sometimes you want to have it regenerate or just word it a little bit differently. Okay. So it's just saying that now it's giving me just some fundamental concepts and components involved in how an airplane works. But let me ask it a different way. And this is something that I've been testing with a lot because I work with a lot of people that either have, very little knowledge, like in Excel, and then I work with people that have a lot of knowledge in Excel. And I want to always know, how do I explain something to people that are brand new versus people that are experienced? So what if I wanted to explain, I wanted to know how to describe how an airplane works to a 5-year-old. Because even communication questions, I say based on this type of a person. The airplane has an engine that helps it go forward. The engines are like big fans. So this is a way that we could explain it to a 5-year-old child. So remember to use simple language, engage with the child's imagination, and encourage them to ask questions throughout the explanation. I mean, that's amazing what we can end up getting out of that. Okay. So it can give us survey questions. It could give you PowerPoint slides. What content might you put on a PowerPoint slide? It can help you to write a letter. So if you needed to generate a letter to the city, about, we've always got flooding in our neighborhood or whatever your topic might be, put it into ChatGPT. You're going to be surprised at what you're going to generate back out. But sometimes you have to really read it. Don't just copy and paste it. You want to go back and read through it to make sure that it is saying it in the language that you would use. Is it saying it how you would have said it? Take what they gave you and rewrite the paragraphs in your way of saying things. So as you can see, it's compiling everything on the left-hand side. And that's why some days I have so many things that I've asked it that sometimes at the end of the day, I'm going to go back and I'm going to clean things up. But let me talk about that management of the left-hand side here for a moment before we do a couple of other demonstrations. On the left-hand side, there is an account information down at the bottom. So you're seeing my email address. If I go to the dotted menu at the bottom right, or bottom left, sorry, you're going to get a pop-up menu. One of the things that you have access to is help. I do encourage you in every application, of course, to use the help because that will help you to find more information about specific things. Of course, the internet is buzzing because this is such a hot topic. As a matter of fact, everybody says this is the hottest topic with technology as of today. And it has been for the past couple of months. It's really always been in the top 3 of the what are people talking about. So if you haven't jumped on board yet, I'm encouraging you to do so. Do I say open it up for your business to use? No. You want to get to know it first, small steps with it. But you can also clear the conversations out. So if you know you want to get rid of everything that you've previously typed for historical information, clear the conversations out. Also, you have access to your plan. So if you wanted to change your plan from free to and upgrade it to the paid for version, you most certainly can do that. You also have access to settings. There isn't much in the settings as of right now. There's the general category where we have a theme that you can use, just like with your Microsoft apps, you have light, dark, and the default, the system. You have some beta features that you may be seeing depending on which version you're using. I have my browse with Bing turned on. and I'll get to that here in just a minute. So I do have that turned on. There's some plugins that are coming as well with third-party apps. I don't have that turned on just yet because I'm waiting for them to be in public release, because some things are only available to certain types of users. There's also this data controls. The data controls includes your chat history and training. It's got the shared links. So when I was talking about that new icon that we have, we can share that link with other people. You can export data, or you could remove your account if you decided you don't want to keep that account. I have had people start with a personal account. They started with a personal account and had a free version of it and decided that they liked the program. They wanted to start using it in their company. So they deleted their personal account and re-signed up with their business email address. And so they're actually using it on their business level instead of personal. Technically, you could have both if you needed to, because it's all based on your email address. But just so you know, that's the only settings that we really have for this at this time. This has changed, especially the beta features. Those will continue to change. Okay. So when you're thinking through the benefits of using this program called ChatGPT, there are benefits that will go forever. You can ask it just about anything, but keep in mind, some of the information that you get may not be accurate. They may not be 100% accurate. That's why you just can't copy and paste it and use it. You really need to, and that's why I'm testing a lot of it. Like I've asked it to write Visual Basic for Applications code for me. And I compare it to code I had already written that I know that works. Or I'll take that code and put it into Excel or wherever and see if it works. You know, some of it, of course, has to be tweaked depending on what the code is doing, of course, but I mean, I'm testing it with just about anything. Like I said, with that box, you know, folding my piece of paper into a box, and that airplane or the bird, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do that. So I'm going to follow its instructions, see how accurate it was, so I can go back and give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So really kind of walk through the steps that if you're putting in, you know, how do I do something, you know, like how do I back up a trailer? That was a question that I've had somebody say, can it tell me things like that? It's like, yes, it can. It can tell you how to back up a trailer. It's not going to show you a video of how to do it, but you can get the step-by-step instructions, but you have to make sure you're reading through them because you can get misinformation. Okay. So sometimes it doesn't always understand what you say, what you're asking it. So rephrase it a little bit, rephrase it. It can't give you opinions. So nothing political. We can't say, what would be your advice? Things like that. It does not work that way. So you have to kind of test it. I have had people come back to me and say, it said it was unethical for them to give me this information. So I redid it, re-asked it and said, how would someone deceive the system and do this? And it gave the answer. So you have to be careful with some of what you're doing with it. Okay. And keep in mind, in the back of your mind, it's not always accurate. But for what it does that's good, it outweighs the negativity, as I said. So it's important to always put your spin on things. Don't take it word for word and expect it to all be accurate. Read through it before you share it with somebody else. So it's a wonderful tool for general use. Jacob was using an example earlier about a social media post about it. So he was talking about doing a social media post for LinkedIn. I've used it for several social media posts as well, because I'm not very creative. I'm not, you know, I used to be creative, I thought, but I don't do marketing anymore. So it's something that I'm really not that good at. And ChatGPT has been a godsend for me. It has helped me so many times with things that I just couldn't figure out how to say it. what was the best way to approach it? So those types of things it's going to be wonderful for. So whether it's going to be a blog post, you're going to write an article. I had a person that was actually writing an article. What was the article on? It was something to do with hiking, but it was the dangers of wildlife. I forgot how we worded it, but it was unbelievable, the suggestions that ChatGPT came back with, like making sure that you have a whistle, that you have a backpack with these items, bear spray, little things like that. It's unbelievable what it's been coming back with for answers. So when it comes to kind of a, general use case of how you're going to use this for, if you go to the internet and look things up, it's amazing what you're going to find as to what exactly it can do. So let's do a couple of other examples of some things that it can do for you. So when you look at some of the things that I have written on the left-hand side, I've even got things about doing a quiz. So you could have it do an employee evaluation. So when you think of the business side of it, it's unbelievable. It's got a great personal side and it's got a great business side. One of the things for me is organization. I am really big into organization. I always want to find a more accurate way of doing things because I don't always know if I'm doing things the right way. So I'm going to start a new chat and I'm going to ask it how to organize my closets. How to organize my closets. Oh, good advice. Empty the closet first. I've heard that before. And then sort, and then clean the closet, access storage needs, investigate in storage solutions, categorize your items, utilize vertical space, label and maintain, regular reassess and declutter. I actually have a lot of this in I do a class called Chaos, Clutter, and Control, and I actually do a lot of these. I actually do that same thing with a lot of these. So we have a storage closet. We had a storage closet for all of our office supplies when I was working in a business office, and it was amazing. I followed, when I'm kind of looking at this is pretty close to what it is that I did. So if I need to write this as part of our company policy, so the next time somebody needs to do this, we could have it taped to the back door of this closet. Here's some suggestions on how you can reorganize this, or how do we keep it organized? So maybe that's what I need to be asking next, how to keep a closet organized.
Hey, Jill, and while we're getting this response in from ChatGPT, Benjamin Green has a couple questions here. The first one being, how does ChatGPT compare to like Siri, Cortana, Google Assistant, Bixby?
Yes, good question. The natural language is one of the biggest things. And some of those are good, but don't do the large amount of data that has been put into ChatGPT. ChatGPT goes way beyond what most of their capabilities are. And as a matter of fact, there are mobile apps for ChatGPT being released. I think the Apple one has been released. I don't know about the Android. So it's actually going to be available on your cell phone as well. I know that there's already third-party people that have released some, but directly from ChatGPT, they are releasing some directly for Apple and Android devices. So it is a more powerful backbone of data that it's collecting, okay? And its natural language cannot be beaten by any of those competitive products.
You really get almost a more personable response. I mean, sure, I'm sure you can Google how to organize your closet, but there's that role that it also plays as well, I think, too. A friend of mine was recently engaged, and I said, just for fun, let's see if we can ask it to plan your wedding. And, we like this, we want it to be in this area, and we like these types of things and this sort of vibe. And it came out with, local hotels in the area and local places. And, so it really can be a more human-like response than just a Google thing, too. So that's,
exactly.
Great question. And
it is a great question. Absolutely. Thank you.
Benjamin also wanted to tacked on here, there's a huge amount of data, do we know how this is filtered? There's a lot of concerning, quote unquote facts online as well. So that's, certainly a concern too.
Absolutely. So the people that are actually working on the backbone of this, the people that are actually training it, they're also training it, because there's a big group. So there's lots of people that are doing the language model, putting all the language together, and there's a lot of algorithms that are going on in the background with all of how it comes up with its answers. You're always going to have a chance for error, no matter what it is that you're using. Even if you're using Siri, Cortana, etc., you have a chance for error. And we're going to have a chance for error with this as well. There's not anything that is ever going to be 100%. So we always have to keep that in mind. And please keep in mind that this is so new that they released it and a lot of people said, "Ooh, is it even ready?" And the answer is, from a lot of people, I don't know if it was ready. Back in November of last year, beginning of December, when it was released to a small group, it has, of course, grown since then unbelievably. And was it ready? Nobody knows that. All we can do is we're going to grasp the technology that it's giving us, the information that it's giving us, because I'm going to tell you, it's been absolutely wonderful for me, I know, and all my customers that I have using it. And we're just going to see what happens as we continue to grow. That's why I think in a business environment, you have to be careful and have policies and procedures. And I wouldn't say release it to your entire organization just yet. You have to have some test people, have a test group together that's going to say, how can our HR department use this? How can our accounting department use this? It's huge for marketing, sales, but it's huge for all those others as well. I mean, I have an organization that is redoing their templates for how they're, collecting debt, how they're thanking customers, how they're doing customer surveys, etc. They're going back and analyzing, this is how we've always done it. Let's see what ChatGPT comes up with, and let's do a combination of, this is what we want. Take some suggestions from ChatGPT. So there's no right or wrong answer to what the future holds. We don't know. Okay. Were there a couple of other questions that came through there, Jacob?
Yeah, a couple others. I did answer one for sure. What he asked, or they asked, what can it write a speech or a paper on effective messaging? And I just said to, make sure to be as specific as you can in your prompts, right, and put them in your own words again, because you want to reread those. And, there are sometimes it's wrong, and sometimes you need to correct those things. And, yeah. Matt Vella, our own Matt Vella, also came in here speaking about, what might be wrong. Said he imagines this should not be used for anything deeply technical, legal, or nefarious as well. And also wanted to know if you've ever submitted some of your questions to again to see how the answers differed.
Yes, I have. I've compared questions. So I've asked it the same question multiple times, and I did it on different days. I've tried it morning versus afternoon. I've been trying to break it because it's hard to, know what its limits are. What is it limited to? Most of the time I've gotten word for word, but notice there's a regenerate response down at the bottom. So I'm going to do that. So here's the response that I got for my last question: how to keep that closet organized. So keeping a closet organized requires consistent. And then it's actually giving me 9 different things. And at the bottom, it says, remember, organizing a closet is an ongoing process. If I click regenerate, it's going to take that same thing and see if it's going to come up with another answer. So this would be something you want to test. So it's got 2 of 2. So it knows that I regenerated that same question a second time, just so you know. Now it's coming up with 10 instead of 9. So I would go back and I would compare those. And of course, I've been using Microsoft Word to do my comparing, because I put it each in 2 different Word documents and then use the compare feature so I can have it tell me what's different from one to the other. So keep in mind, it's not going to be 100% accurate, but I have taken, I really like this, and this is true for us as an organization or for me as a person, avoiding overcrowding, fold and stack neatly. Those are things that I want to use. So I'm going to take those. I'm going to probably reword it a little bit because I wouldn't say it like this, nor would I want people to read it like this. I might even take something completely out of here and ask it that question. So I might even take something out of here. And what does it mean by drape over chairs? Poor example, but you could take something out of here and ask it that again too, to have it break that down. I've done that with a few things too.
Hey, Jolene, I actually have a question here. I'm just kind of curious.
Yes.
Are there any sort of copyright issues around content that ChatGPT?
Well, it's not really copyright because we have to know this is where this information came from, and people have gotten in trouble with this already. There's universities out there that have said this student word for word took this out of ChatGPT. His degree was taken away, whatever the case might be. He had to go back and retake a course, those kind of things, or rewrite the paper. So we can only take and reword in our own words the information that we are getting out of here. We're not going to ever take anything word for word from here. And I personally have been putting in information provided by ChatGPT. So I am putting that if I use it from ChatGPT, I'm going to state that this came from ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. So I haven't seen anything that says there's a law that says you cannot use this word for word. Okay. Should you? No, you should not. And yes, you want to be very careful and not use it I would never use it to write a legal letter. If I were in an attorney's office, I would not use it for that because they speak a totally different language on the way that they write things. Okay. Will it be able to someday? I bet it can. I'm pretty sure that's probably in the works, but once again, they would need to review it just like everybody needs to review. Anything that you get generated out of there, always review, always. Okay. Were there some other questions, Jacob, that came in?
Yeah, I was just going to type in a couple answers, but let's see, let's get them live here. So Jill asked, instead of asking one basic question, how do you enter a number of factors that you need considered as part of the answer?
I think you gave an example of that earlier, your wedding scenario. Where, and I've done that too. So explain that again, how you did yours.
So it's pretty simple. ChatGPT is pretty smart. You can just enter them as sentences. So I said, I am planning a wedding for my friend, period. My friend, we would like to have the wedding in upstate New York by the Finger Lakes, preferably around a winery, period. We would also like people to have options for, overnight stay, period. We would also like this or that. The vibe needs to be this, period, this. So you just kind of add them in like a paragraph. It doesn't have to be too grammatically correct. And it'll just take in all of that information and spit it out. And if you don't like it, you can say, okay, but write that as if you were a, wedding planner in, another country or, anything like that. And you could have it modified and it'll spit out another answer and say, okay, here is this as if I was this. So it's pretty straightforward. Just type it all into that chat box.
So here's one that I'm putting in. I would like to do a business conference in the Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin area. There will be about 2,000 attendees. We will need food and audio. I did a similar one to this for somebody up in Minneapolis area. Okay, so first determine the date, look at venues. Here's some venue selections, contact potential venues, food and beverage, accommodations, etc. So it's giving you kind of a list that you can start going through of what it is that you should do first and then start with these. Okay, creates a to-do list.
So Jolene, just a kind of a related question, and I think I know the answer to this, but does ChatGPT ever ask questions to try to clarify its responses? Would it ever come back and ask you anything?
I haven't had it do that for me. Jacob, have you had that experience yet? I haven't had it come back to me and say, Could you explain that to me again, Jolene? I wish
No,
it would sometimes.
sometimes it doesn't always ask in the form of a question, but it might say it would need more information to create a
Yes.
more accurate answer or something like
Mhm.
that. And it kind
Yeah.
of hints at, what else you should prompt.
I have had that as well. Some suggestions on the wording. Yeah. And the more specific you are, the better your answer is going to be. So the more details you provide, the more details it can provide as well. Otherwise, it's going to give you just basic answers back. Okay.
Right.
So I do want to mention here before we close out that, the future of this is not really known. We don't know where this is going to be 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. But just so you know, a lot of other applications, including Microsoft, are incorporating ChatGPT. There is, if you haven't heard of it yet, Microsoft has a Copilot that is an add-in to PowerPoint, Outlook, Word, Teams, etc., that is going to be available. There's no release date yet, but that will be available sometime in the next, I think they're saying end of 2023, beginning of 24. That is going to have ChatGPT built in to our applications. So we can say, ChatGPT, write me a 10-page or a 10-slide presentation on this topic and include these details. It's going to be built right into the application. We don't have to go to a separate app to use it. They're incorporating, of course, chat within the Bing search engine. That's been incorporated already, where it's working similar to what we're doing here in chat. So expect this to keep growing and, of course, become more accurate as well. Okay.
So
Just
we have a couple more questions if we have time for that. So Lois asked, and I think I know the answer to this one too, but can you input images at this point into the free version?
Not into the free version, but in the version 4. Mm-hmm. Version 4 accepts images.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And in terms of what it gives you back, is it always strictly text, or does it ever give you back anything other than that? Images, videos, anything?
Just text as of today.
Got it. And then the other question I have, because these are all sort of organized as chats, can you build on the question? Like if you ask one question and then you sort of want to get more information or modify that, like in your example about the conference, if you said, oh yeah, and we need to have, lodging for 2,500 people added to my last question or something like that, or is every question really a standalone question?
So need lodging. So I'm adding to this question, so it carries on my conversation because I'm in the same chat. But if you start a new chat, it's brand new. Yep. But otherwise it will carry on from your previous question if you stay within that same chat. So that was a good question. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot to mention that.
Okay.
Okay.
And Jennifer mentioned a concern. We were talking about copyright issues, and mentioned that, it doesn't cite the sources that it comes from. Right. And so that is true. But it might be interesting to ask ChatGPT how it cites its sources, and what does it do for as far as protected information. That was the concern, is it sourcing things from protective information? And I think OpenAI, that's the company that creates ChatGPT, I think they have more information on that if you look into it.
Mm-hmm. They do.
But it is, it's a big, complicated process, and sometimes it's not perfect, I guess.
Yeah, and there's fine lines with all of that.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I mean, it's such an interesting and new topic for a lot of us. Jacob, you were talking about an academic program, that's built around AI. You want to mention a little bit about that? That might be interesting to folks.
Yeah, so I'm actually interested in a master's of its, there's a few different programs that might tackle AI, but some are specific to AI. So it would be AI ethics, ethical artificial intelligence, or ethical technology. And there is, just like a couple of questions have been brought up today, There's a lot of ethical questions concerning AI, not so much something like ChatGPT. A language model is not something that is really worrisome. There are definitely some concerns about ChatGPT regarding like the information it gives out, the information that it's trained on, maybe some questionable responses and things like that. But AI is just kind of this really new thing. I know Alan mentioned it kind of just blew up this past 6 months. And so, there's a lot of people out there, AI ethicists and technology ethicists, working to set guidelines and make ethical frameworks and how to make it better. So there are people out there, in case you're worried or wondering, trying to find ethical and safe ways to incorporate this kind of stuff. And so in ChatGPT and OpenAI, they take that into account as well. So it's a wide field with a lot of questions and a lot of unanswered questions, but hopefully we get closer to answers as we go further.
Right.
All right. Do we have one more question here, Jacob, or is that
yeah, Lois, she gave some helpful information here. So it's actually something written, it's a document written by OpenAI, by ChatGPT's owner. And let's see.
You want to maybe post that in the chat so folks can see it?
Yeah, let's see.
We're interested, they can copy it and
let's see.
Take it offline.
Post it right here. Good one.
All
Thanks,
right.
Lois.
Well, really interesting topic here, Jolynn. And now I'm even more excited about our session in August to see, sort of business applications of ChatGPT. So thank you everybody for being here. These are the webinars that are coming up here over the summer. I'm going to talk a little bit about productivity tips for a hybrid workforce in July, and then ChatGPT as a business tool in August. And, as I mentioned before, the signups are live right now. So feel free to, get ahead of the game and get registered. And as always, we're always looking for suggestions on topics for these webinars. So if you have any suggestions, you'll have an opportunity, as Jacob mentioned, in the survey to share those with us. And we would love to hear those. So I think that's it for now. And hopefully we'll see you here next month.
Sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.